Welcome back to the podcast. Listen, you guys are all know about hackers, right? We're about to learn a lot more about hackers than we ever imagined before. It's not one guy in some foreign country coming after you. You're about to get hacked by a billion AI agents coming at you from around the world, from different spots in ways you can't even imagine. You're going to want to listen to this podcast. Today, we've got cybersecurity expert Mike Armistead with us. He's with Pulse Security AI, and he's about to show us and how to start preparing for these billions of intruders that are coming at you. Mike, welcome to the show.
Hey, Anthony, thank you.
We start talking about a billion intruders. I mean, look, before it was like one hacker, somewhere in some foreign country and trying to go after my checkbook or something. By the way, we got hacked once, and you guys all know that feeling. But now we're talking about having a billion hackers. What am I going to do?
Yeah, it's a problem that's a reality today. You have basically you have the AI unleashing all this chaos into it. You've got to fight AI with AI is what it's going to come down to. If you don't have that kind of capability that can fight machine to machine, you're just going to be that far behind anything that's going on. And again, we're already seeing this in the industry. We've had several hacks that have already happened, and in research as well, showing how some of these hacks happen. It's really like light speed. It's compared to what it is today. So there's both the amount and the speed, but also the part that gets underestimated a little bit is with AI you can put smarts into that thing too. So it isn't just a big denial of service, flood of drones coming at you. It's actually things that are pretty smart. They'll embed something in a weak spot, and that thing might sit there for a little while until it starts moving around and figuring out your enterprise. So yeah, there's a lot to consider in this world today.
Well, when I looked at it, I look at trying to figure out how to safeguard our organization. I got a call from our bank yesterday and it said, "Well, we may use your voice to verify you." And earlier that day, I'm working on a TV show, and the editor's like, "Hey, Anthony, I just saved you a bunch of time. I just created an AI voice for you to do some of these edits." I'm like, I'm in my like this is me right after that meeting. The bank saying we may use your voice to verify you, and I'm like, didn't the editor just say? I mean, less than an hour ago that they created an AI voice that sounds exactly like. And by the way, when I watched the TV show with the edits they did, it sounds just like me.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, you're right. The protections, that's where those protections have to also do a step up. And there are little indications that can be taken today, at least for things like video and voice, that it's more revealing with that, that's from an AI, it's a deep fake or something like that. But at the same time, there's gonna be multiple modes that have to happen there because like you say, someone fakes your voice, there really should be a call to something or someplace that they can actually judge it. I think maybe the listeners all know when you've heard about these somehow American companies have been hired North Koreans, and like how could that possibly happen? Well, it's because in the interview process they're looking at something and it looks legit, uh, and there's all sorts of techniques that then are here now to counter that kind of thing. Like you start throwing different questions off, like what did you have for breakfast this morning, or something that that's kind of away from the interview, and that too that people would have to answer in a way that would would tell you that's legit or not. And so yeah, some of these counter effects happen with that. But I think the part that we're trying to do too is cybersecurity has always been a little bit of that art of war where you have to know your enemy and you have to know yourself, because that's the only way you're going to be able to win any kind of battle within that. And so you do have to think about the bad guy and what they're going to bring, but you also have to do a lot of preventative stuff yourself to prepare for that. And sometimes it is fighting, that battle with those same swords, but a lot of the times it is just making sure your moat is bigger, or you've created some other way of of thwarting that attack, like asking those questions that are unpredictable, kind of in an interview.
It just makes me think about, when I was a kid, I don't know about you, but there was a time when I took a dollar bill and I put it on, we had a copy machine in my house, and I put a dollar bill in that copy machine. And, I figured out how to line it up the front and the back. And all of a sudden I had a dollar bill that I had made. And, my mother came up and she's like, dude, no, no, no. She didn't say, dude, she was, Tony, look, you can't, you can't do that. Right. This, what I really had, because, it's a federal offense to copy our money supply. And the only way we're ever going to trust our money supply was we had to create these laws that were really critical. I think we got to start looking at these AI laws and looking at, look, when we have to be able to trust that the person I'm talking to is the person I'm talking to. If we don't, we're going to have a breakdown in our society. I think one of the places we got to look at with AI security and safety is we've got to prevent forgery, right? Without this, I think we're going to have a societal breakdown. And I think that's one of the places where our government's got to step in and go, look, just as much as our money supply can't be copied, we can't be copying the humans without their approval, right? Look, you may decide to do it like I'm doing for this TV show where it's time saving. Great. Or if you're a sales company, you might want to get your preliminary sales out there, ways to communicate with potential buyers until you get a little bit further on. There, I can say, look, I have approval to do that. And in that context, great. But in the world where somebody could malevolently use my identity, right, in a way that it's not like it ever was before. I mean, this voice content was so much me. It had my same mannerisms, my same stutters, my same, like, the words I got caught on, the same way I kind of got nervous about things. It's amazing how well it can learn you through. I think it was like it took a half hour of content that I had from previous clips of the TV show. They kind of took all my mic clips, and they dumped them all in there, and it really created a voice, an AI voice of me that was spot on.
Well, not only that, I mean, the technology today is such that uh, it could also just literally put the words in your mouth and have
Yeah,
your lips move the right way,
yeah,
that people understand it. So, that gets to a great point, is that there is a responsibility for government to think about that, but there is a big responsibility on the providers of this technology too. And the especially the popular models out there really do need to think about the ethics kind of involved with that, and not just push the envelope on everything. I mean, it's that we have to really think about that. And I think certain of those companies are, they lean into that a little bit further. And Anthropic, for example, who does Claude, they lean into this a little bit further than, say, OpenAI and Chat GPT, or a Facebook or someone like that. But it's like, I think the responsibility is on both sides of this. It has to do that. Now we are starting to see some laws pass. I know, here in California, we just had the legislature put a law in place. But as we've, if the past is any lesson for us, that'll be the low bar. That we got to actually deal with the where reality is, and the high bar in some ways. And that's gonna take both the producers of people that do offer for legitimate business reasons, but it can be used for nefarious uses, and it's going to take defenders to do that. There's, you know, I didn't know when I first got into cybersecurity that I'd have such job security over 30 years, but it just, you do, because it is such an interesting space where it's not only that what you're protecting is moving, because that's advancing. That, for
yeah.
example, those people, like you're saying, production sites want to use these kind of advanced editing things because it's helpful.
Yeah,
It's helpful for
yeah,
the
it's
business. It's
great.
helpful
It's
for you
great.
and your show.
I mean, it cost me thousands of dollars to fly out to California, sit in there, get a crew together, and have them tape me for a whole day. It probably cost me a few $1,000 to put that together, and now they can do it, with AI.
Exactly. And so that's legitimate, but they've got to both make sure that the legitimate parts don't get uh, into, with the adversaries, and then it's going to take, the other side. Like I said, there are people that are all about understanding things like we were just talking about, like deep fakes, but also it stretches across the whole gamut of things. Whether we all get phishing emails, and people, you think it is your bank. It actually, I mean, I got a really interesting one the other day, which was just like, hey, your performance review is done. You're like, someone did a performance review on me. That's kind of interesting. But they the enticing of clicking on things
Oh,
is
they
notorious.
get you. Like I get one every once in a while. I get one that looks like I got somebody something by accident. I'm like, but the nosy one in me wants to like go open it, like, oh, I got your financial report, or I got your something. Like all of a sudden, it looks like a real legit email that was supposed
Yeah.
to go to another Anthony, and all of a sudden, I'm like, I had noticed. Oh, no, that's a trick. Do not open that one. But our company actually goes through training on, and they try to trick us into it. And you actually get a score here on how you do with that. So it's kind of funny. It just reminds me. Remember the old radar? Radar the police used. And then the bad guy. Then we had bad guys. Us. Then we had radar detectors, right? And then then the radars would get a little bit better, and the radar detectors would get a little bit better. And then like that whole war kind of went back and forth for a while, to the point where, you know, now they had to like literally turn the radar on as you walk up to it, or they've gotten pretty good at figuring out pulsing these things. So
That's right. I mean, and that's the kind of arm race is that we're in cybersecurity, is that the and you mentioned at the very start, it used to be, when I first got into this, like 30 years ago, it truly was what the term they use is script kiddies, but it was individuals have all the time in the world, typically didn't weren't not well funded, um, and didn't really think about big consequences. And boy, has the world changed, where it used to be, even when I started a company 2 companies ago, we pitched our investors of the fact that no way would a country try to hack into our country, because that would start a war. I mean, how quaint does that sound? Where the Chinese will hack and North Koreans will hack us all over the place. And now it's just like, oh yeah, that's who's doing it. You don't even really think about it. And so the world has definitely shifted that way, and it's made it harder for companies to stay on top of it. And you know, uh, I didn't think I was going to do another company this last time, because I was in kind of semi-retirement. But I just, I felt that this time in our space, where AI is coming to the forefront, where we still have kind of the situation is like, I wanted to see if I could help companies defend themselves.
so
So
let's talk about that, because the pendulum certainly has changed from detection to prevention, right? I mean, look, we get it. By the way, same thing with our bodies, right? Same thing with our body. I love this time in our life where we're working. We have so many cool things right now to do prevention work, right? And same thing with our security world. So how are you doing that? How are you getting? What are the tools that I should be looking at as an entrepreneur and all the companies I have? What's the stuff? How should I be looking at this to really create prevention rather than just wait until detection happens?
yeah, it's a good point. I'd probably argue a little bit. I still think the pendulum's still pretty far towards the detection side, where it's because, and for some good reason, it's like we haven't been doing a good job of preventing it so much. So you have to kind of consider you're already hacked. So how do you detect it as fast as you can? So there's some good reasons for that. Um, but but I will say, I mean, I do believe that moving that pendulum back towards more prevention is one of those ways we're going to get in front of this. And there's a number of strategies to do that, but I think key to this, especially as startups and other people that do it, is think of your situation. And what that really means is think of your risks and what you could do to really uh, protect the things that are most valuable, and really don't worry about things that aren't. Because it's funny, because good security has often meant for many people, and I think it's out there a little bit, is that just try to do everything. Here's a
Yeah.
big,
No, right, right,
yeah,
right.
big standard. Get tools in every tool. Try to figure out but you know what? In a lot of ways, more data is not good security. I mean, and it's understanding what you have and what you do. So first of all, it's really, uh, I like to relate it in manufacturing went through a revolution when it went from the assembly line to just in time manufacturing. And that concept was basically put the customer at the center of it. Don't try to keep a lot of inventory and go through it. I think there's an equivalent thing here in security where, but it's not an assembly line. You don't have work in process, but you have risks, and you got to kind of deal with, okay, what risks are most meaningful to me, and then how would I make it hard for somebody to exploit that risk, and take advantage of either a vulnerability or a threat against you. And so you got to start there and don't try to do everything. Try to just
So
do those things.
don't try to boil the whole ocean. Find your critical data that you need to protect. Is that it?
I absolutely the first part is what are your crown jewels, right? So what crown jewels do you have, and what would be devastating if you lost it?
So let me just kind of go through some. For us as a construction company, look, maybe our finances and our pay, our payment systems. We don't want to lose that. That's a pretty one. But look, if someone breaks in and steals the blueprints for a project, I don't know. I mean, I guess I could call the architect and get another set sent over.
That that's exactly the way you'd have to think about it. Now, I do have to say there are fundamentals that everybody should do.
All
And
right.
one of those, this first one was really know what your crown jewels are, know what, and then how long could you exist without them? If something would happen, because ransomware happens as well.
Oh, we got it.
And
We had it. We had it. The guy they wanted $10,000 per computer. That was a beautiful part, and he got to about 30 computers, and that took us a few days to get over.
yeah, and know how you even are going to respond to that, like practice. That's an interesting thing because most people kind of in theory guy just hope it doesn't happen, kind of thing. And it's better to kind of practice, say it happened. You just got
Like,
hit with
so
the
what do
bad.
you do? So here, hold on.
What are you going to do?
What I did is I said F you. I said F
Uh,
off, turn off all the computers. I took them all back. I had one of our computer hackers. I mean, we found a local computer hacker who went in and just kind of started ripping everything apart. And we lost some hard drives. We lost a few things, but I think the whole thing probably cost me five or 7,000, maybe $8,000 or something. It was painful, but I was just I could not tolerate the thought of paying a cyber attacker anything. I'd rather hunt them down and eat their soul.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. But there are businesses that have to make the determination. There's
Yeah,
a thing that's been in the news right now is about 2 years ago, MGM got hacked, and two of the casinos had to make a choice.
I saw that. Yeah, it's
One
crazy.
decided to pay the ransom, and it was a from a hack standpoint, it was a brilliant hack. It shut down the casino. So how much do they lose per day? Do they pay, or do they, go after the guy and just say, F you, we're gonna go and do this? They had an early case. It ends up in this case paying was cheaper than doing that. May not have been they may not have
Oh,
felt the
got it.
best, but it's but I like you, I am not you don't want to pay this kind of thing. You don't want to encourage it. So again, back to the things you have to do is luckily, I think in your setup, you know, you maybe have, the right walls that are between different drives. You have the right, there's endpoints that are protected more than others. There's things like that that actually, these hackers may get into certain places, but they can't get into other places. And I think so. Knowing where your crown jewels are, watching, everyone should have endpoints, and everyone should build their thing on this. This is a more a theoretical type thing, but it's this notion of zero trust. I can't build a wall big enough, so I'm just not going to trust anybody. And in today's world of cell phones and cloud-based kinds of productivity type things, it's actually a good strategy. You watch your access points, because that's going to tell you. And if you see something weird happening or something fishy happening, you close it off. And from there it's big. And then that other area that I was going to say that's a pillar is you got to practice, because it's, even if practice is just going through the mind kind of, or thought exercise of okay, I just got hacked in this way. What do I do? What do we all do as a team? And how do I talk to my customers and my suppliers and all that kind of thing? Is this something you have to practice, because it may happen, and you'll be better prepared if you've at least tried it.
Yeah, it's in having at least some backup, right? We've certainly, because of that, created some cool protocols that we have some great redundancies, and redundancies that get offline, so that we're copying the servers that we're doing, and we're moving the things that we have that are um, you know so if it happens, we could cut this leg off and keep operating. Yeah, yeah. So I think it's made it a little smarter now. I've also really realized I've spent thousands and thousands of dollars on some cybersecurity for us that we probably didn't need. It may be just as useful for me to not get too crazy with it, and um, just have the ability, to set up camp
No,
down
and
the block quickly.
if you think about it, the things that probably make the biggest impact to you are that those little trainings on phishing,
Yes,
the
yeah, that's exactly right.
the fact that you're doing proper backup and you have those things, in isolated, so they you can restore
Yep.
that. One of the
At
exercises,
least back to a day or so. I mean, look, so we lose everything back to yesterday,
it
and
exactly.
it feels like, okay, so I lost today's emails, not a big deal, and that's usually what happened. We'll find out in the morning something happened, and maybe it's yesterday or 2 days ago, which I think is a tolerable a catch up. So yeah,
And
Mike, that's what we did.
you just bring up a good concept there too, because everybody has the what's tolerable for them with risk.
Yeah.
And you do have to kind of go through that and do it. So, if you're a startup, you don't have a lot there. There's not a lot of IP yet. You don't have to worry about so much. If your whole business and you have something that you have to protect, and the crown jewels of everything, then it's a different kind of risk profile on that. And that's good to know too, because eventually, as you grow, there's now insurers that will help mitigate your risk. But they what they would do for you, Anthony, and like in your case, is just they may have saved you the money to have to recover like you did in that, but you're out paying your premium, so you have to kind of do that kind of balance, like you do with insurance in your
All right.
personal
So
life.
if you were to give me Mike's top list of things I need to do to make sure that just start with these basics. Where the basics you'd say start with?
Yeah. So the overarching theme here is it's like a situational security. So everybody's unique. And just remember that. So your unique situation is, I'd say the first thing you do is what I'd call kind of a value-based asset listing or prioritization. So you just go through and you think about what assets you have in your company, and it could be people and their personal information and things like that. But what assets you have, and then place value on those. I mean, it could be big buckets. It could be you know, the big stuff, and then the stuff I don't, all the way down to the stuff I don't care about. But you don't have to worry about being so fine grained, but just like have that order of things. Uh, the second thing is, we already talked about this, would be think of how you're going to apply this concept of zero trust. So if, and that a lot of times gets around to your policies about access to different systems, to different, it's like, who do you give the keys, to a building to, if you're in, and you're in construction, so it's like, who has the keys to your equipment, to
That's
your
right.
inside your inventory, all the raw materials, all that kind of stuff. You don't give that to everybody. You give it to trusted people, and then maybe temporarily you give it to somebody to let them in to give you some more raw materials or something, but then you take that key back. It's those kinds of things. So that zero trust mentality, I'd say, the other thing that is the second thing you do. Um, third is you do need to then track. You have some sort of tracking that, and in cyber, a lot of it is know about your endpoints. This is the shift that's happened in cybersecurity over the last kind of 20 years. It used to be watch your perimeter. Then they realized the perimeter is really easy to break. So now it's about watching your endpoints. So that might be, your cell phone, it might be your laptop. Those things go missing pretty easily, and that too. And there's a lot of technology that kind of does that. So those are the three things. And then
So watch the keep an inventory of the laptop and phones or the endpoints are what you're
well,
saying.
and even more than that, there are protections. There are, they usually endpoint detection and response is the term for this category of tools that you can put basically an agent on your phone or on your laptop, and centrally you could just you could make it a brick. You could brick it just like they do in ransomware for the person that takes it. So that's a, and those things actually offer a lot of other information, so they're good to do as well. And then I'd say the other one is then that notion of practice. So sometimes practice is you can go hire someone to pretend like they're a hacker and then give you the report afterwards and said, this is how easy it was, or this is how hard it was for me to get in. Other practices, the phishing, exercises and things like that. And then revisit that every year. And then once you get comfortable with those, then look to expand to maybe you do want to do a network, type of security, or then you may want to do some other things that are a little bit more esoteric to continue to ratchet up. Because the other thing with hackers is, it's a game of least resistance. They are not there. If they hit resistance, why do something like that when there's such easy pickings in other places? So, it behooves you to kind of ratchet up every so often.
So if you were to look out over the horizon next, 5, 10 years, what are you seeing as, where AI is going to make the biggest difference in cybersecurity coming up?
I think it's going to make the biggest difference in being able to uh, get bits of information more or easier than it is today. Today, people usually have to go and search inside systems and to try to connect the dots between something that's going on in one place and what's going on in another place. And I think AI agents, it's kind of their thing. And it used to be that to make it easier for a person to do it, you used to try to consolidate everything in one place. That's really hard to do because the volume of data has grown so much. It's too expensive for a lot of reasons. And so I think agents will help in collecting and getting the information out. And then I do think they're going to help with connecting these dots. Like they already do that today. Most people here on your audience have used, I'm sure, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini or whoever. But they're always surprising at times where you go, oh, it connected that dot, or it figured that out, or it brought this analogy. I think it's going to give more food for thought for people to be able to do that. And so I do think the AI is going to help in the 80% that's a little bit tedious, a little bit rote, a little bit of just research, and then give it to a person, and the person's gonna be able to get it further along and react much, much faster than they are today.
Well, I mean, it's like we're going to have to. I feel like I was talking about some young folks the other day and talking about all this video game playing. And, as much as we bust their chops about how much video games they're playing, the truth is, I think it's been training their brains to move a lot faster. I mean, compared to me and my grandfather, my kids' brains move way faster than I ever did. And I think in a world where what's going on is happening that much faster, this may have been the biggest gift that people don't really recognize is that those kids who are playing video games actually their brains are just like in a world where that's how it's going to come at you. How do you say? So, as you look at this, and you're a great entrepreneur, and you've done a lot of different companies. How do you really see, what's changed for you as you look at, the new companies you're developing? What's different today than what you did before?
Oh, wow. I can remember one of first company I co-founded. I've been in early companies. This is my sixth one, but the first one I co-founded was just three ago. Uh, us buying a telephony switch. We had to pay like $50,000 for a telephony switch with this, cash that you're just so desperate to hold on. And now, you start on Google Workspace for $5, and it gives you telephone, it gives you email, it gives you everything. So the infrastructure costs for starting a company, that's been a huge change. That used to be, that in your office, and it just cost so much money, and you're just burning that without even getting to your product and what you wanted to build. So that's been one. Um, the second one I've even noticed. So the last company I started was 2016. Um, and even between 2016 and today, the speed of getting to product is so much faster. And, it,
I mean,
and
so much faster. I mean,
I mean, probably because you can prototype so well now, and you can get that reaction. I don't, I'll tell you, maybe this is a controversial statement in the world of AI. Is like, I don't think you're going to get to full enterprise product faster, because you still need to do the engineering work to make sure that thing can, like we've been talking about, attackers can withstand attackers, can scale in the way it does. But boy, getting from idea to something people can react to, which is a
or at
hard
least a minimum viable product, right?
yeah,
Like even
exactly.
get to a proof of concept, and where you can go, hey, all right, group of investors, let me show you what I got, and they get them all here. To the point of get them to salivate,
Yeah.
just get them salivating.
Even today, we use Figma, and Figma's got a mode that you can make it play, and people are like, your product's working. Like, well, I mean, yeah, it looks
Kind
like
of, kind of.
it, but you know what? But what's that accelerated for us so much was, um what path to go down and what not to go down, because you're that's the constant juggle you're always in, and you have to get that right. To get that, and usually you had to wait for people to pay you money and then tell you and things like that. Now you can kind of get to the concept. You still have to wait, you know still, getting to where people pay you money is still the key part, because then you either have real value or you don't have real value. And that's still the same, you know but you can get there faster.
Well, it's great. Look, if people want them, if they want you to come in and look at their cybersecurity, do some training, help guide them in this world that's changing faster than ever. If they're looking for a coach or a company to come in and do some guide, how do they get a hold of you?
You know, we're still in stealth. So, in some ways it's kind of hard to get a hold of us, but we're starting to get out there. But, we are at, our URL is pulsesecurity.ai. Um, we've got a LinkedIn page. We've got like a billboard. You can't really tell what we do, but that's the best way. I mean, and people can look up me and
Put all the
LinkedIn.
contact information down below. Look, audience, if you want to get a hold of somebody who really understands this space, if you're looking to collaborate with someone who's got immense knowledge on cybersecurity, where the world's going, really to understand where, like we always talk about, where's the puck going, right? Skate to the puck, not to where it is now, but where's it going? Mike's got that ability. So, Mike, I'll make sure I put all that down below for people to catch up with you and hunt you down.
Thank you so much, Anthony. It's been a great chat.
Yeah, it's great. Great having you on. Hey, audience, last week, another breakthrough week. Jonathan, this week, he wants a skateboard. He's like, he wants those electric skateboards, the ones that go like, the little thing where you ride. He wants one of those electric skateboards. He's been talking about it. I said, look, I'll buy it for you. If he gets 5,000 more subscribers, I'll buy him that skateboard. He gets a skateboard. You subscribe. We noticed that 65% of you made it to the end of the show last week and you weren't subscribers. Take a second. The kid gets a skateboard. If you like and subscribe right now, if you can do that for me, I would be grateful. And as always, thanks for listening.